I got a question for you. When is the last time you've heard or used the word justa? Justa, yeah. I mean, I made it up, but I'm sure you've heard it. It actually was used on this stage just today. Have you used it? Oh, come on. I'm just a new meeting planner. I'm just a supplier. I'm just a husband, a father, a spouse, a friend, a coworker. I'm just, and that term bugs me. Because anytime you use that term, you're sharing the doubt of who you are and what you do. You're belittling yourself. And I think oftentimes it's because we don't realize the impact that we can have at any time, in any moment, in any circumstance. And it happens in all organizational structures and all social structures as well. And I've done it. We've all probably done it. But I don't anymore. I think it's because I've realized the impact of what one person can do in a random moment. I call those random moments showtime moments because you never know when you could be in the spotlight. You just don't. And it's the conscious or unconscious ability to make the decision of, am I going to just meet an expectation or am I going to go make a difference? And we heard a touch on that earlier. I thought that was a great tie-in. And I think it's those most simple moments of everyday occurrences where we can create significance. And here's how I learned it. I was invited to go perform at a hospital. A friend of mine said, hey, there's a little boy named Nathan, and he loves magic. Not doing very well. Would you go do a show for him? And honestly, I did not want to do it. I was just a magician and didn't really know what I was going to be able to do. But you don't really say no to that sort of request. So off I go to the hospital. I get shown to the oncology ward. I get shown into the room. I meet the mother, meet the father, meet the brother, and there's the family priest as well. Another uneasy feeling. And I look over, and there's the bed, and I see this boy, Nathan. He's got all the machines kind of hooked up, and he's got the wires and the tubes, and my stomach is just absolute butterflies going nuts. And the boy kind of looked at me, kind of that like, he knew I wasn't a doctor, is that cautious wonder. But his mother finally spoke up and said, well, Nathan, this is John. He's a magician. And the neatest thing happened, man. The little boy, the eyes kind of opened up. He sits up in his chair. And I walk over, and I go to shake his hand. I realize he couldn't talk. He had a respirator on. And he couldn't talk, but he just had this glow all of a sudden. It made me feel a little bit better. And, I started with something I've been doing literally for like 10 years. I'm like, what little tricks can we do? And I did one of those, where you take one, and you make yours disappear, and Nathan's got one in his hand. And now there's two. I mean, it was just simple little tricks. And every time I do one, his eyes would light up. His breathing, the respirator would get going. I start feeling more comfortable with who I was and what I was doing. I did a few more tricks. I did something with the priest. I borrowed his credit card. It vanished. It was all, who's going to steal from a priest? Come on, But the final thing I did, I will never forget. One of my favorite tricks, I had Nathan. I said, why don't you pick a card? And Nathan picked the 7 of hearts. And just for kicks, I said, Nathan, why don't you take a marker and why don't you write your name on the card just in case we ever see that card again, we know absolutely that it's your card. And then I said, Nathan, why don't you go ahead, take your card, lose it somewhere in the deck. And he did, put it about halfway down. I showed him the top card. I said, Nathan, I want you to do the magic this time. We had the 4 clubs. I said, Nathan, touch the top card. He did. I said, Nathan, turn over the top card. He did. And it was a 7 of hearts. His eyes, the respirator's going. It was a pretty awesome feeling in a sense, and he had to do it again. So Nathan took it again, puts it even deeper into the deck, all the way down. I showed him I hadn't done a trick yet. We hadn't done it. I said, Nathan, check it out, the Jack of Diamonds. Touch the top card. He touched the top card. Nathan, turn it over. It was a 7 of hearts. Don't worry, he checked too. He did. He took the card, he put it under his pillow. He put it under his water glass. He started putting that stinking everywhere. And every time I'd have him touch the top, and guess what? It was on the top of the deck. And the final piece of it, because now like the whole family's around, the priest, everyone's giggling, they're laughing, they're having a good time, they're watching Nathan. The eyes, it was awesome. It was like a real showtime moment. And the last one is I take the whole deck of cards and I throw it at the ceiling, and every card comes just fluttering down all over the room, except one card. And it was the 7 of hearts, stuck to the ceiling over Nathan's bed. And I literally walked out of the room that day with the family and Nathan just in awe, giggling, staring, and pointing at the 7 of hearts. And I felt better about myself. But the impact of that story was never really realized until, honestly, 5 months later with my wife, and we see the priest. We're at a service, and I'm like, that's the guy. You should go talk to him. So I'm like, okay, do what my wife says. But I did. I walked up to the priest, and my name's John. I don't know if you remember who I am. How is Nathan? I met you and his family in the hospital, and I was the guy that did the magic. And it was right then he realized, and he understood who I was, and he stared at me. And he got me by the shoulders, just staring at me. For a very uncomfortable period of time. It was, I kid you not. And he says, you have no idea how many people I've shared this story with. I have had sermons about it. I've shared it with families. I've shared it with people in the hospital because of the difference that you made being in that room that day. And what he then shared with me is what affected me. He said, Nathan passed 8 hours after I was there, 8 hours. And that the family took the 7 of hearts and they put it in the casket because that was the last time they were happy together as a family. I was just a scared kid who didn't want to go to the hospital. It was just a silly magic trick. It was just a 7 of hearts. But we have those moments, those simple occasions where we have the opportunity to create impact instead of just meeting an expectation. That showtime moment. I don't know when it'll be for you, but we all have the opportunity. It's the simple, everyday occurrences that we want to make a difference and have significance instead of just doing what we've always done, perhaps. When someone walks into an event and they have that wow moment. You know what? My server at the Renaissance this morning, he knew exactly who I was. He brought me my drink. He brought me this. He knew what omelet I wanted. That was a showtime moment. Perfect example. What is it for you? What can we do to go one extra step and make a difference? Sometimes when we least expect it. So the big question is, where are you going to leave your 7 of hearts? Where is it? What is it? It doesn't have to be a silly little magic trick. We hear sometimes about going the extra mile. How about going the extra 2 feet to shake someone's hand, to help somebody in the airport, to lift someone up, to call the person you've been meaning to call to say thank you that you know you haven't done because you just haven't gotten around to it? What is your showtime moment? And where are you going to leave an impact? And when is it going to happen? I don't know.